Well, hey there. I'm going to show you how to do my Maverick Stitch hat. I've got this far in it with this brim and this amount of the stitch and the cast on. And the first few rows, I have a video of that, so I'll take you to that right after I tell you about the rest of this. Okay, so the yarn I'm using is a yarn that this one here I spun. And this one here is a mix of yak, merino, and silk. And it's a really soft, beautiful fiber. It's a bunch of greens and blues. And this one here is, and it's a bulky single, so it's a bulky roving yarn. Now this one here too, I got at Hobby Lobby, and it's 100% wool. So it's the blue one of the 100% wool that they carry at Hobby Lobby, bulky. Okay, so I use this color for the brim, and then I'm doing the body, and I may go back to this color at the end. I'm trying to save this yarn so that I can do something else with what's left. So the loom I'm using, this is a loom that I got on Amazon, and it's a 5/8 inch loom. It's the biggest one in that circle set that they have. It's roughly the size of like a 36 peg that you would get, or a little smaller out of a bigger gauge loom, but still a wide gauge. It's just a 5/8 inch. And what else have I got here? Okay, a loom hook. I got this loom hook from Artisanal Turning. Steve Axelrod is the seller. He also sells in my group, Loom Knit With Us, and there he usually releases his new ones first if you want to find them there, but they're very nice. And okay, that's all there is to it. You just do your hat size. So I'm going to take you how to do the brim, and I'll show you how I did the brim. I don't know if you can see it on here, but the way I cast on, you have a very nice cast on here. Yeah, it's hard to see on this. Oh, here. It's a little bit lighter here. Let's look here. I cast on here. And then I have on this side a beautiful little chain look at the beginning of the brim. And it just makes the cast on look a lot neater, I think. So I'm going to take you to how I did this. If you don't like the way I did this, just use a row of knit and purl to get started after the cast on. But I'll take you how to do the cast on and the technique, and then you just keep doing owl eye for as long as you need the brim to be after that. But I'll take you to how to do that, and then we will catch up. So we'll see you in a bit. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I cast on and do my first couple rows to get that effect at the front of the brim. Okay. So you can use any yarn and loom. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure that they match for the how tight or how loose you want the stitch. So the first thing I do is I'm just going to make a slip knot and put it on the first peg. The yarn I'm using is a bulky yarn, and I'm on a 5/8 inch loom. It has 44 pegs, which is small. It's a youth size or a very small woman's head. Anyway, so I do the slip knot. Then I'm going to take the loom hook, okay, and put it in the top of it. I'm going to pull up the working yarn. So this is just the crochet chain stitch without a loom hook. Okay. Oh, and yeah, this yarn that I spun, it's 100% merino wool, just in case you were wondering. Okay, and then I tighten it, and I put the loop behind, and I tighten it, and I put the loop behind, and I tighten it, loop behind, and I tighten it, loop behind, and I tighten it. And you're just going to do that all the way around the loom. Okay, just like this, all the way around. I have a stitch marker here, but it doesn't matter. Maybe I'll just take it off. It's for something else that I did. Okay. And we just keep going around. So I'm just going to put you on pause while I go most of the other way around, and we'll meet you up in a bit. Okay, I'm getting close to the end of the row now. And I'm just going to pop this peg on here, or this yarn on here, and knit it over. And we are cast on, and we've already done the first stitch there, so I'm not going to do any more because it's going to be heavy enough. Okay, so to get started, we do a row of owl eye. So to do owl eye, we go over the first peg, knit it off, come over peg 1 and 2, knit them off. Whatever peg you're on is peg 1, go over 1 and 2 nice and loose, and just knit it off. Go over 1 and 2, knit it off. Always on the first peg that you start on, it's always peg 1, go over 1 and 2 nice and loose, and knit them off. That's all there is to it, and we're just going to go all the way around the loom. Okay, so we will just catch up when we're close to the end of the row. Okay, so I'm getting close to the end of the row here. And then I'm just going to come over here like this and end my row right there. I'll do one more stitch over. And the reason I did that is because this had less stitches on it. Then we're going to do a row of purl. Okay, so you put the loom hook in here, pull up the working yarn, and just slip it over the top. Put the loom hook here, scoop up the yarn, and just flip it over the top like that. Okay, pull it up and forward, over, and just tighten slightly. And we're just going to go all the way around the loom doing the purl stitch. And then the cast on will be complete, and you will have that look on the front. Okay, so I will meet you up when we get close to the end of the row. Okay, so I finished the row of purl. Now we do one more row of owl eye. And so again, this is how I do it. And then I'll just meet you up at the end, and we will have we'll have the look. Okay, so I will see you when we get back around. Okay, so I'm done that, and it's hard to see, but this is the look that you're going to have on your brim. This beautiful chain look. So at this point, if you're doing brimless, you just go right into the stitch you're using, or if you want to have an owl eye brim, you just start doing some rows of owl eye. Okay, so I showed you this part here, and then we'll go on and do the project. Okay, well, now that you've cast on and you've just done a few more rows of owl eye till you got as long as you wanted for the brim, we'll get right around to doing the stitch. Now it's a 4-row stitch, 2 rows of one stitch and 2 rows of another stitch. And the reason I'm doing it like this is it gives you this wonderful texture. I don't know if you can see the texture very well, but you have a lot of texture. And because there's not a lot of different color variation, I wanted a lot of texture on this hat. And so this just gives me all that texture. Okay, so the first stitch is my roses and chain stitch, and how you do that is you go over in a U-wrap, knit it off, come back around backwards onto the same peg in a U-wrap, knit it off, come back around again to the front, knit it off. So 3 stitches on a peg. Over in a U-wrap, knit it off, back, knit it off, and back, forward again, whoop, knit it off. Doing my best to keep this in the camera. Okay, a U-wrap the other way. Don't get too tight, you can't knit it over. And then a U-wrap coming back this way. Okay, on to the next stitch. U-wrap, back the opposite way, U-wrapping, back forward again, U-wrapping. U-wrap, U-wrap back the other way, U-wrap forward again. Very easy stitch. Forward, back, forward again. Okay, so all you do is you keep doing that stitch all the way around to the last peg and then begin again doing the same stitch. Row 1 and row 2 are roses and chain stitch. So just go around twice and then I'll meet you back up here to do row 3. Okay, so I'm doing the last roses and chain stitch, the end of row 2. And then we're ready to start row 3. And row 3 is just owl eyes. So we go over on the first peg and come over for the second wrap and over 1 and 2. And just keep going for 2 rows. And then you repeat. So 2 rows of roses and chain, 2 rows of owl eye, and go as long as you want. And then when you're the length you want, just do a row or 2 of E-wrap. And I'm going to take you to the bind off because I'm almost at the point where I'm going to do that. I'm just going to add in a few rows of the blue and then do my couple rows of E-wrap. And so we'll bind off and then we'll look at the finished hat. So I will take you to the bind off. And now we can go ahead and bind it off. And I'm just going to do a slightly decreased bind off so I don't get a lot of bulk. And it's pretty easy to do. So all we're going to do first is do a row of E-wrap. And it doesn't matter which stitch you ended with, whether you ended with the Jupiter stitch or the U-wrap, it'll work fine either way. So we're just going to E-wrap nice and loose all the way around the loom. And the reason you want to keep it loose is you're going to have to move some stitches and you want to, them to be fairly loose to move. I just kind of gently push it to make sure I'm keeping it nice and loose. Okay, and then you're just going to knit the last one to secure it. Knit it over, and then you're just going to go around the loom and knit off the E-wrap. Okay, so I'll just put you on pause and we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that that's done, what you're going to do is you're going to go by 2s all the way around the loom, and every second peg is going to go on the first peg, the yarn. So you're going to take it off and you're just going to move it over to the peg before it. So just taking it off and moving it to the peg before it. And you're just going to go all the way around the loom. So you'll have 2 loops on peg 1, nothing, 2 loops on peg 2, nothing, or two loops over here. And you're just going to keep doing that so that every every second peg will be blank and every second peg will have the 2 loops on it. Okay, so if you are on a uneven loom, you won't have an even amount of pegs, so you just don't bother doing the last one. Doesn't really matter. And because I kept this nice and loose, it's quite easy for me to move these over. Just awkward because the angle I have it, but okay, so I'm going to put you on pause, and as you see how this is looking, and we're just going to meet up when we have that done. Okay, now that you have that all done, all you're going to do is go around the loom and knit the bottom one over the top, like that. And that reduces the bulk so that your cast off and back of your hat will lay a lot flatter. And a couple more. And then the one more. And there we are, and there's the working yarn coming out of this one. And then all we're going to do is, with the working yarn, go around the loom 1.5 times and just cut your yarn. Now you can either use your loom hook or a needle, and we're just going to go up and scoop up the loops so we can do a drawstring bind off. And I usually use a needle, but if you were going to use your loom hook, which is easy to do with this method, you just take the yarn and pull it through like that. And if you have a needle, you just put the needle on and you're going to pick it up the same way. I usually use a needle. This is so much easier though when you're doing it sometimes. On a bigger loom, I'd for sure want a needle. Okay, so I'm just going to put you on pause and we'll pick it all up and I'll see you at the beginning. Okay, now when we get all the way around, we make sure we pick up the very first stitch that we had already picked up. You want to make sure that every peg is on here. Now all you have to do is take all the pegs off the loom. You just go around and you just flip them off. I'm just holding on to the drawstring here because I want to make sure that it doesn't come off. And we just take them all off. And you can even do it with your fingers. And there we go. All off the loom. We can just put the loom to the side. We don't need it anymore. And then you're going to take the working yarn and you're just going to drawstring the brim closed. Okay, you're just going to make sure that it's all like that. And then when you get it about halfway, you're just going to take the working yarn and put it through the hat and flip it this way, because we're going to finish it on the wrong side. And we just bind it up, and as you see here, it's going to be not as bulky as it would have been. We've thinned that out. Okay, and now this is when we do need a needle. So I'm just going to get a needle. I have a needle in this handy dandy little thing. And also you can cut the working yarn a lot shorter. You just need to sew that close. So I'm going to cut it to about there and put the needle through the yarn, or the yarn through the needle. Okay, there we go. So that's threaded, and we're just going to sew this closed. So what I do is, now that I've bound it up, is I kind of pinch it so I can see where that edge was, and then I make sure it's pulled nice and tight. There's the hole in the middle, so I just want to pinch it so I'm at that hole in the middle. And then I just take the needle and I just sort of sew around in a circle around that hole, just picking up some loops. Okay, and then I'm going to actually do a knot. My loom wants, or my yarn wants to be all weird. Go, and I'm going to do another knot. Just want to make sure that this doesn't come apart. I'm just going to go to the other side. And make another knot. And then you can sew the working yarn in if you'd like. I just actually, because it's not going to be reversible, I just cut it and leave it. It's not going to hurt anything. Doesn't bother me. And the other side of your hat looks like this. It's a lot thinner, but we'll take it. And we'll stretch our stitches, because that's what you always do when you make a hat, is you stretch your stitches. You pull it every way and make sure it's all stretched out. And then there's your hat. It's looking really nice. The top is flattened a lot better, your beanie hat, than it would have been. And there you go. You have a beautiful beanie hat. And so here's the hat, and it has a flatter back, like in the video I put you to. And here's how the stitches look, the brim. And it's a very nice looking hat. Has lots of texture. You can see texture this way too. So there you go, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, bye.